Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show today. I'm really glad you could join us. So today we're talking about something that's very important to the growth of your business, probably one of the most important things, especially if you're in a B2B business, which is LinkedIn. We're going to talk about how to use LinkedIn to successfully grow your business, especially how video is, how native video on LinkedIn is working, how blogging works, and so many other benefits that you get from using this free platform to be able to market your business. And we'll probably dive in and talk a little bit about the paid services on LinkedIn as well. So with us today is one of those foremost experts in this space, Vikram Rajan. Now, Vikram is the co-founder of PhoneBlogger.net and its new service, Video Socials, the video blogging club for subject matter experts. Now, Vic is a frequent presenter at the New York City Bar Association and many other lawyer groups around New York City. Vikram was a panelist at the New York State Bar Association conference in January 2018 regarding social media best practices. And Vikram's marketing column was published by the AICPA's largest newsletter featured in its Journal of Accountancy. Vic has also been published by Forbes and many other publications. So Vic, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Ty. I'm looking forward to this.
So there's so many things that you're an expert in, and I thought we would just start with video, LinkedIn, blogging along that line. So first of all, why should people care about LinkedIn right now?
You know, for me, LinkedIn is like the nerd that was neglected and bottom of the social totem pole, and everyone kind of made fun of LinkedIn, and all the cool kids were on Friendster originally, and then Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat, and LinkedIn was just kind of there. But the nerd stuck to those studying in the books, grew up, and what do you know, the nerd became successful, and it's like Revenge of the Nerds on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is really coming into its own now. I think when it was funny, when Microsoft bought LinkedIn a couple of years ago, people didn't really know which direction it's going to go. Microsoft doesn't have its reputation as being the most hip, progressive, innovative company right now, so we didn't know. But I think that actually worked out well for LinkedIn. And then they started copying Facebook's interface, and everyone made fun of LinkedIn then. It was like, the nerd trying to copy the jocks. And, the irony, I think, is that it actually ended up helping LinkedIn. And it's like, hey, you can't beat them, join them. And now it became a lot more friendlier to use. And now their instant messaging system right on LinkedIn, the chat system, works really well to kind of communicate directly, obviously, with your peers. And as a peer-to-peer, professional-to-professional B2B platform, it can't be beat. Every other platform is kind of fighting to be a social network. And with LinkedIn, you don't have the same amount of socializing as you do, where people just kind of hang out and do the scroll of Facebook. People are starting to do the scroll a little bit more with LinkedIn. It's still a bit more transactional. But if you're looking to reach those high-end professionals, the C-suite, the six-figure earner and above type professional, LinkedIn's where it's at. And so they've carved that niche and they stuck to it. And thankfully, Facebook didn't kind of create that they have like a Facebook at work concept of a workplace intranet, but they didn't really kind of create a LinkedIn killer. I think thankful for LinkedIn itself, because I think Facebook probably has more high-end six-figure earners and C-suite professionals on Facebook, but the context is different. When we're on Facebook, we're looking to be more social. We're wearing shorts. We're at our friend's barbecue. We're hanging out with our family. With LinkedIn, we're in a boardroom or conference room or a convention, and we're in a suit and tie, or at least professional clothing, and having our business cards. And very much that analogy pertains. So people are in the frame of mind to do business with each other on LinkedIn, so you're able to break bread a lot easier on Facebook. So I think LinkedIn has come into its own. I think it can't be beat right now with, and its demographics are there and the algorithms are there. We can talk more about that too.
Yeah, a lot of interesting points you bring up there. I mean, LinkedIn, for those that don't know, as you mentioned, the largest B2B, basically business platform for social media that exists, was kind of chilling, chugging along. And then Microsoft came in and bought them the last 2 years. And then as you hit on, the whole thing exploded. What they ultimately did, which was pretty brilliant, is just dupe. They just straight duped Facebook's entire flow. And I remember when that happened, I handed it to a friend of mine that's on Facebook all the time. I said, what do you think of my newsfeed? And they went through it and they go, looks cool. I said, that's LinkedIn. And then they grabbed the phone back and looked at it again because they thought it was Facebook, and they're on Facebook all the time. So for somebody that's on Facebook all the time to get LinkedIn and not even realize the difference between the two platforms goes to show how much they just copied what was already working, which is brilliant because like you said, there's, Facebook's not in the business space. So LinkedIn is the dominant player in the LinkedIn space. Now, a lot of things have changed that we haven't dove into yet. And let's talk about one of the first being video. Now, it was first referred to as native video, which is the ability to upload video directly onto your LinkedIn feed versus like copying links, et cetera. So how have you seen that take off in the last, less than a year, I think, since native video has been out?
So they started making the changes in 2018. That's when they announced that they were going to change the algorithm. It used to be a long time back that when you posted something or when you're looking at your own feed, it was all purely chronological. What someone posts is what you see. And Facebook was like that once upon a time as well. And Facebook realized like that was just ridiculous. And they needed to kind of create some type of relevancy algorithm, which, has its pluses and minuses. The minus is that we all stay in our cocoons and we all see the same things and same people. But as much as we complain about that, that is actually what makes it addictive and sticky because we end up seeing the same people and we want to see them. So as much as, maybe it's not the best in terms of seeing different perspectives and points of view, it is comforting, it is fun, and it is nice to hang out with the same people. So it's very cliquish, but that's how life is. So from that aspect, Facebook announced, I want to say in 2017, that they were going to prioritize video posts. And kind of to your point, Harry, what native video enables is for these platforms to keep the traffic, to keep the eyeballs on their platform. And ultimately, these are all advertising platforms. That's really where they're making their most money. I mean, LinkedIn, as you mentioned, has their premium sales navigator and things where they make a couple of bucks, but even still, advertising dollars is tremendous, and they want to keep people on the platform. So it used to be when you shared a YouTube link on Facebook or LinkedIn, it will bring up the embed and play right on the platform and kind of pretend like you were on the platform. But realistically, the traffic indicators were actually going to YouTube, Google. So they were making all the money in the sense of they were able to show the ads and they were able to show advertisers in terms of number of eyeball or potential eyeballs. They wanted to change that. They created this concept of native video, which means, as you mentioned, uploading video. And so 2018 was a huge shift, and that was a huge shift from my company as well. Historically, to use that phrase, for the past number of years, we've been in the world of written blogs where we help our clients turn what they say over the phone into a regular blog post, phone blogging as we call it. And when Facebook made the change, it didn't hurt us so much because most of our members and our clients are lawyers, they're accountants, financial consultants, other type of business consultants, B2B. So Facebook didn't have so much of an impact. When LinkedIn started prioritizing video, that's where we saw the major change. If you think about it, if you're pushing up video, well, then by default, you're pushing down other types of posts, links, written blogs, etc. And so when they started making that change, that became really big, and we needed to start to bring our clients into the world of video and video blogs, and none of them wanted to do it. It was just, they didn't have the time to go to a videographer and spend like a half a day and do a series of videos. They didn't have the budget to do that. But the professionally produced video, as you know, could be a pretty dime. And, they simply didn't want to be embarrassed on video. So they weren't used to being on video. So, if you remember how you were the very first time, you probably weren't all that great, not as great as you are now. And for a lot of our members, as we call them, our clients, they are well-seasoned, well-connected professionals. They've been practicing for years, if not decades. So at this point, they're excellent at what they do. And it's probably been a long time since they felt uncomfortable doing anything or bad at doing anything. And so for us to get them in front of a video camera, suddenly they get all nervous and flustered. And of course, no one wants to be embarrassed. And so the first experience is an awful experience. And then, we're saying, all right, now do it again. And, the last thing they want to do is do it again. But of course, the only way to get better is to do it. And the advantage of using video on LinkedIn cannot be understated. People love watching video, so they want to serve up more video. We don't have a choice because now every other post is video. If you scroll on LinkedIn, practically every other post is a video. And yet, if you think about how many people do we know that are actually posting videos on LinkedIn is probably very small. Like depending on the circles you run in, maybe it's, out of 10 people, 1, 3 people at most, 4. If you're like into video like we are, maybe we know 4 or 5 people out of a random 10 at most. But usually it's like 1 or 2, which basically shows that dichotomy between the people who are actually posting video, yet every other post is video post. So that dichotomy, that separation of those two statistics is really the algorithm at work. So the easiest way to get to the top of LinkedIn and use it effectively is to kind of play their game and to join this virtuous cycle of video blogging. And then tremendously, it's more shareable. People, LinkedIn wants to reward people who share posts. And if you share other people's video posts, that's a nice shortcut as well.
Yeah, and that's really the key with any social platform. It's understanding what they want you to do and doing
Right.
a lot of it,
Right.
and we see from live to video being a couple of those things that we see
Yeah.
most. And so that's kind of what I see with LinkedIn is that, the stuff you're talking about, posting consistently, posting regular content, vlogging, which is
Yeah.
basically video blogging, doing that on a regular basis and frequent basis. And then that's what helps you build an audience of your friends, other people that are interested in your content. Do you think those are really some of the most important things, is to be consistent and to kind of do the things they want you to do, which it seems like
Yeah.
right now, really video is one of the hottest things?
Yeah, and I don't know if it'll ever end. Like it'll kind of be like, people kind of talk about what's next. I'm like, well, let's not worry too much about what's next. We know what's here and now. And I don't think video is going to suddenly go away. It's not as if like, with the internet, TV went away. Video just kind of went from TV, to the internet. So maybe there's going to be augmented reality and there's going to be filters and there'll be all sorts of other stuff that come along the way. But I think the core basic aspect of you getting on camera, developing that personal brand so that people have dare I say, an emotional connection. They kind of get to know you. In marketing, I'm sure, the phrase know, like, and trust. And the easiest way for people to trust you is, familiarity breeds trust. So as we kind of see you over and over again, and we become familiar with you, we like you, we trust you, and we get to know you that way. And that video is like second to being in person. It's a proxy to being in person. I don't think that can really be beat ever, because you can really feel someone right in the same room. Maybe kind of as virtual reality and all that stuff, that immersive concept come to play, which we'll worry about. I'll come on your podcast in 5-10 years from now and talk about that stuff. But for now, we have video, and it's so easy to do. It's just a matter of practice and doing it, as you mentioned, consistently. And then there's some tricks of the trade that our members do in our video blogging club to kind of improve those results. But it's relatively simple to get started.
What kind of tools do you need to get started with video on LinkedIn?
Sometimes people want to make things more complicated than it needs to be. It's at your level, you probably use a professional camera and professional microphone and all that level. But quite frankly, I think I look pretty good, and I'm using my laptop, and my laptop's not 100% brand new. It's about maybe 4 years old at this point. And most laptops that are younger than 5 years have an HD camera. Really, quite frankly, the cameras on our laptop, our iPad, our Surface, our phones are such crazy HD resolution. It's the stuff that videographers dreamed about when they were growing up. They're like, one day I'm going to get that megapixel camera that's going to come on the market, and I'm going to save up and buy it. And now we've got like 12 megapixel cameras in our pocket. So I think just the equipment we have already from a camera standpoint is pretty much checked off. Like, we've got it. Then come lights. And lighting can be an issue, but if you can find a place like where I am, where I'm surrounded by windows, if you're able to look out a window and have the sun shine on you, let the sun shine, as the song goes, right? If you're able to let the sun shine on you, you're going to look great. Even if you've got like a face for radio, you'll still look pretty good with the natural light. And again, I'm not a professional videographer, so I can only kind of learn the tidbits from that. I know that they love diffuse lighting. Like, they like a cloudy sky as much as not as beautiful as blue sky. The cloudy sky light is what they love, right? That diffuse light. And so by nature, if you're staring out a window, unless the sun is glaring on you, you're going to look fantastic. Obviously, don't have a window in back of you, because then it's a silhouette effect. But more than lights and camera, it's action. And it's you being more you than you've ever been. And you don't have to be too animated. I can get a little frenzy, and that could be annoying, actually. But let your personality come through. Be sincere, be genuine. You're not going to click with everyone. I think a lot of our members who are kind of those well-seasoned, older professionals, their natural competency and excellence comes through. They may not speak very fast, which is a good thing. They may not be very frenetic on camera, which is a good thing. But their energy, their passion can come through kind of like a quiet storm. So it's a little bit of practice, but if you just have a conversation with someone, which is kind of what we mimic in our clubs, that sincerity comes through, the authenticity comes through. And I think that's what we're really looking for when we connect with someone else, that we want to know that he or she knows what he's talking about.
Makes perfect sense. Well, what are some other things that you see are effective with video, that make video successful on LinkedIn, that make people want to watch certain videos while they don't watch others?
Length would be probably the number one aspect. It's kind of like getting a very long email. There's a phrase, too long, didn't read. And we all know that, right? We get an email from someone, if it's like a one-sentence email, we'll reply to it immediately. If it's 4 paragraphs, 5 paragraphs, we're like, oh, I'll read that later. Or if it's a really complicated question, I'll read that later. And that later may never come. Tomorrow never comes. It's always today. And so if you are forcing someone to put it off until later, then obviously the chances of them watching it are pretty slim to none. And so you want to focus on these sound bites, things that people can actually watch during the scroll. And Instagram cuts off video after 1 minute, and they raised that from after 15 seconds. I think TikTok is still at that range of 15 seconds. But with LinkedIn, you have somewhat unlimited, but don't take advantage of the unlimited, unless it's like appointment viewing where people are going to set this time aside, or a podcast, for example, where people can kind of listen to it on their commute. Otherwise, if it's during the scroll, as I call it, then 2 minutes should be kind of that happy medium. 1 minute can be a little tough for a lot of people to convey substantive knowledge, right? We're talking video blogs that are talking about a frequently asked question and answer, a tidbit, a do, a don't. Hard to do that in a minute, but some people can do that. But I think 2 minutes is capable. For our members, we enable everyone to do it in 3 minutes, and then kind of hone that marketing muscle, hone their soundbite down to 2 minutes. And so length, probably bar none, because immediately going in, if someone sees this as long, it's really tough. The second kind of shortcut or kind of video blogging hack is the more you're able to mention others in your video blog, the better, right? You're pinging them, you're @symboling them, but you're mentioning them in the video itself is a really cool opportunity to bring other people in or bring other resources in. For example, one of the things that a lot of our members deal with and have a challenge with is knowing what are they going to talk about? What are they going to video blog about? Topics are becoming the topic of topics is probably my number one topic. So I refer everyone to go to blogbrainstormer.com. There's no opt-in. You don't have to give me your email address, but just use it as a resource. And it's really fun for you to use with a buddy and come up with topics. And from there, you'll be inspired in terms of what are the right topics. And we tend to mastermind that in our club. So of kind of what topics and what titles are resonating. The third aspect to that is text on screen. 80% of the people watch videos on mute on these platforms, meaning there's no sound. So Facebook, LinkedIn, so these other platforms, they automatically play videos. It'll start playing automatically, but they play on mute. You can't hear what the guy's saying. So unless you're really interested in what that guy has to say, chances are you're not unmuting. And likewise, unfortunately, vice versa. Unless they're like a really big raving fan of ours, they're not unmuting. So you need to have some text on the screen to tell them what you're talking about, to incentivize them to unmute. So at the very least, a headline title so that they have the overall subject of what you're talking about. It also makes it easy for people to share it with someone else, even if you don't watch the video. Also easy for you, for when you repost it, you know what the video is about, so you don't have to watch the whole video to understand that. And if you're able to have captions on the video and preferably branded right onto the video, like the subtitles, the text of what you're saying verbatim, that's ideal. It's ideal for people who are playing it on mute. They may be in a noisy environment, they may be at work, public transportation, or they may be having a hearing impairment. Maybe they don't have speakers, or maybe they have a hearing issue. And there's an ADA compliance aspect to this that, I don't want to speak too much to, because I'm a marketing guy, not an ADA compliance lawyer. But from American Disabilities Act, look, I think from a marketing standpoint, the more accessible we can make our videos, the more we can reach people of all abilities, the better it is from our marketing. So let alone that it's the law, we should do it because it's probably a better marketing tool to have captions. And those are kind of the three things that immediately enable people to share your videos, not only watch your videos.
Yeah, great tips. Now, on length, you said not too long. Do you have an idea of whether 1 minute videos work better than 3 minute or 5 minute videos, or any
There
kind
are
of
tons of statistics. Yeah, there are tons of statistics on it that, and of course, how statistics are. They all vary and they're all over the place. But generally, shorter the better. Keep it short and simple is really our rule of thumb. If you can do it in a minute, do it in a minute. I say 2 minutes is probably the maximum attention span. You can kind of, go for that 2 minute, 30 seconds. And I say, look, the ultra max is 3 minutes. More than that, you get into the point of what I call appointment viewing, where people are going to now set aside time, which is okay if they know to set aside time. And which is good for YouTube, for example, if people are now setting aside time. They're going to YouTube specifically to watch your content or to watch content to answer their question. But during the scroll, how much time are they really dedicating to the scroll? I mean, if you think about when you're scrolling, you're kind of doing it as a distraction. You're doing the tidbits, the nooks and crannies of your day. At most, you're spending about 2 minutes per video at most. So I say 3 minutes is the ultra max.
Yeah, and those are great tips, especially that a lot of people listen. The greater percentage. What is it that you said that watch with no audio? It's like 80% plus.
At least 80%. So I'm starting to see greater statistics of that, and it's really because the captioning is probably the biggest movement that's happening. And our platform's about to do auto captioning as well and built-in SEO. Because once you start captioning your videos, you have the text. You're able to use that if you're posting on YouTube. You're able to use that for the YouTube description, and Google indexes that. So a little bit off topic of LinkedIn, but nonetheless, you're able to use the written part of your video as a LinkedIn text blog, published blog. So LinkedIn Publisher is huge. That's like their whole other area of long form written blogs. And what's cool about video is the cascading effect, where you're able to get multiple types of content out of the same thing. You record a video, well, you've got the audio for a mini podcast even, and it's relatively easy to get these things into Apple Podcasts and Stitcher and SoundCloud. It's relatively easy to do that. There's sites that syndicate it for you, so that's easy to do. But then once you have the audio, you're able to transcribe it into text, so you can caption the video, but use that text as a written blog. Text is way easier to copy and paste than to quote and to share and turn into infographics. And include in your email newsletter, so you're able to turn it into an animated GIF. I mean, the one video can give you about 5 referral multipliers, pieces of content that other people can share in the way that you want to share it, because not everyone's going to watch video, but some people prefer text, images, etc. So that's kind of the value of doing video.
What are some of the mistakes that you see early beginners make, besides building the confidence to get on video to begin with?
Yeah, I would say the irony is that it is wanting to be perfect, and that paralysis of analysis, that perfectionism, fumbling over words, and they get all flustered and they get nervous and they want to kind of do take 2, and it's like, you don't want to be a complete mess, but at the same time, and I mean that literally in the background of a complete mess, you don't want that either, but also figuratively, where you want to have a couple of bullet points. It's always best to have, let's say, 2 or 3 bullet points at most. I always say 2 bullet points, put it on a Post-it note right near your webcam. This way you're able to reference notes while making eye contact. But perfectionism by far, where you fumble over words. We all fumble over words. That's just the nature of conversation. No one's judging you and like, oh, he has no idea what he's talking about because he just mispronounced that word. Sometimes you make reference to any self-deprecation humor and you point it out and you go, or you just ignore it and keep going because whatever, people fumble over words. That's probably the number one issue, is just get over it, take a deep breath. It's okay. It's the nature of life. It's probably the number one. The second is, time management, of kind of waiting until they have the time to do it. And as we know, ultimately time management is priorities, and you make the time for what you find important. And the urgent stuff, obviously we make time for. The fun stuff we make time for because we want to do it. It's the stuff that we don't really want to do, but we know we should do. that tend to be at the bottom of our to-do list, and there's always stuff above it, so we never get around to it. You kind of have to create an appointment schedule, an appointment with yourself, an appointment with others. That's why we created what we did, so that you're able to now say, all right, I'm going to carve this into my calendar. I'm going to do it. And kind of goes back to the first part. It's not going to be perfect. You don't have to post that first video. Keep it, because maybe you'll release it in a year from now as as kind of a blooper reel of look how awful I was a year ago. And you can kind of make fun of yourself that way. And, self-deprecation humor goes a long way. But at the same time, those are probably the two things. It's kind of perfectionism, and then the time management. Tech is a part of that to some degree of procrastination of like, oh, I don't have the right equipment. I really need to get this handy dandy video camera, and I really need to get the best Logitech for the microphone. Those things will come, yes. And if you get that better sneaker, maybe you're going to jump a couple of inches higher. But you know what? The basics of playing basketball comes from practice. It's not from the sneakers. You don't want to hurt yourself, but you don't need the razzle dazzle. You could use the analogy for swimming and playing an instrument. Same thing when it comes to video blogging. Equipment will help. It sophisticates it, as you know, as you do this on a week-to-week basis. But for most of our members where they're just getting started, get started.
Yeah. That's a great place to start. I mean, I remember when I started on Periscope going live, and I sat there for months before I did my first video. And what else I found was interesting is when I did my first live, and probably going live wasn't the smartest move to do your first one when you're nervous. But what was interesting was how many people came to the rescue. When you don't do a great job, I think that we are obsessed with perfection. But when you don't do a good job, when you acknowledge that, hey, I'm new to this, I just want to provide value and I'm new to this. How many people come to your rescue and support you? And I always thought that was cool.
That's a great point. That acknowledging that this is your first or you're new to this, kind of that vulnerability, I don't want to speak too out of turn because I have my own issues and I know intellectually that the more vulnerable you are, the more people want to help you. And that's actually a great thing, that when people want to help you, you develop this great connection. When you help others, you get a great connection. I know that I have my own issues of really being vulnerable. So I get that. But if we're able to at least acknowledge and say, hey, look, that's not going to go perfectly, but I'm going to give it a shot. And then you provide some value, something of substance. These are not just vanity social videos of like, hey, look, I'm eating pizza with my friend at the beach. That's not really what LinkedIn's meant for. But if you are providing that value in that context of, hey, I'm just looking to provide some answers, as you mentioned, people will come to your rescue, people will help you with the tech part, but people will appreciate the honesty and take you for your word and the competency, the excellence that you provide.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. People, I think, like that vulnerability and can relate to that. What about, producing this content for LinkedIn and using it in other places, like YouTube, et cetera? Can that be done? And how do you do that the right way? Because I know like you don't want to take a YouTube video and share it on LinkedIn or vice versa, LinkedIn on Facebook, et cetera. So how can you produce content and then use it multi-purpose?
Yeah, so it's always the introduction. I'm not a huge fan of things like Hootsuite and Buffer. I use Buffer to schedule some image posts on LinkedIn. Those platforms don't really yet enable you to post video. The video interface on the back end of LinkedIn isn't automated. I know we're LinkedIn marketing development partners, so from a software level, we interface with LinkedIn developers. So they're at least early 2020 as of now. It's not sophisticated, but I'm sure it will be soon. So you don't want to post literally the same content all over the place. The video you can, but there's going to be some type of intro text, the actual stuff that you type. They're going to be specific to the platform. For example, like hashtags are big on Twitter, big on Instagram, sort of okay on Facebook, not really taken off. On LinkedIn, they're trying to push hashtags all over the place. They're kind of late to the party. And so it's kind of sad, really, but they're trying. We'll see in a year from now if it's at least taking traction. But you're able to use the intro text to really customize it per platform. To your point also, yes, you don't want to use the YouTube links on LinkedIn. There's really no way of porting a LinkedIn video to YouTube. However, you have the file that you're uploading native to each of these platforms. You There's no, just because you posted the video once on LinkedIn doesn't mean you can't post it again on LinkedIn. And in fact, you should post it again on LinkedIn every couple of weeks, because it's new people, new connections, a new time, new algorithm changes. Your content will be seen by people who haven't seen it before. And by chance, if one of your amazing raving fan colleagues watches your video and then goes, hey, Ty, I think you shared the same exact video 6 weeks ago. Like, that is like the most awesome marketing compliment you could ever get. Like, that is awesome. Like, wow, you need to, buy that guy a beer or an expensive bottle of whiskey, because that's tremendous. Like, the fact that someone actually remembered, that is amazing. They're not going to remember, unfortunately. So that's one tip of reposting literally on the same platform. You're not going to repost on YouTube multiple times. YouTube does not want you to do that. They don't even want you posting the same video on multiple channels. They'll remove duplicate content. They'll warn you. They'll flag you. So they want exclusive, only one content. They're not a social platform in that perspective. But you are able to use that platform. If you're able to create content specific to the platform, even better. Like I mentioned earlier, Instagram cuts you off after a minute. So if you upload a longer video, they'll just cut you off after a minute. So it's at least better than nothing. But ideally, you're crafting a video specific to that platform. And to, more importantly, not only the specifications, but kind of more importantly, the demographic, who would be there. The way you speak and the way you conduct yourself at a business conference is probably a little bit different than the way you conduct yourself at your family barbecue. What you wear, how you talk, code switching, we do it all naturally. So knowing that, all right, you're speaking to professional business colleagues on LinkedIn, and it may have overlap, but it's, again, the same way you actually speak to a colleague that you've had dinner with and you've been in his living room and you know his family and he knows your family. There's a level of friendship that is more akin to Facebook than it is to, let's say, LinkedIn, where you're wearing the name badge, your business card exchangers, and there's that professional aloofness, if you will. It's the same thing. You want to create videos that maybe a little bit more stodgy, a little bit more professional for LinkedIn, and maybe a little bit more social, if not goofy, or at least more how you are around friends and family for Facebook. So you don't have to use the same content, but sometimes, sure, you can get away with just sharing the same content, change the intro text.
And I love that, because if you can do something and use it in multiple places, then it makes it much more worthy of your time to do. And it makes it where somebody's actually going to really do it. What about standing out? We've talked about the mistakes people make. We've talked about how to get started. We've talked about a lot of those things, but how do you make a video stand out in what's going to become a very crowded platform as more and more people pour into video?
Yeah, I say, look, it's all about the quality more than the quantity. It's don't get too hung up on the number of views. So the views can rack up. The more you encourage people to like and share your video, just a call to action within the video itself, that itself is going to make it appear more often on LinkedIn. Visually, you want to have it somewhat visually appealing. Again, you don't want to get bogged down by it and get afraid of it. Get started. That's the most important part, because the nature of you suddenly doing video when last week you didn't do video, that's the biggest outstanding and standing out thing that you could be doing. It's night and day. You weren't doing video and now you are doing video. So the fact that you don't have to be too sophisticated, because that itself is like, hey, look, you're doing video. So that itself is going to be outstanding, and the LinkedIn algorithm is going to reward you for it, because you weren't doing video and now you are doing video. They want you to do more video. They're going to reward you for that. So that itself is tremendous. And then what you do within the video makes it even more appealing. You want it visually, somewhat aesthetically appealing. You got the lights, camera, action, as I mentioned. Introducing other people in your video is even better from a cross-promotion standpoint. So there are a lot of those kind of visual cues and tricks, using props so that it's more visually entertaining, that it's eye-catchy to do that. But as a video blog, typically we're sitting still rather, but you can stand and use a whiteboard and use a TV screen. A lot of our members do that. I'm not a huge fan of the green screen. I kind of have this concept of like F the green screen, which could be a number of words, but it could be forget the green screen. I think if you don't use a green screen, if you're not like Industrial Lights and Magic, is that what industrial, like like Star Wars guys. If you don't really know what you're doing with CGI and green screen, it just looks bad. It looks like a B movie, awful. You're just like, you know, floating on a surface. It just doesn't look good. And I think on a deeper level, it kind of breaks that authenticity concept that I talk about. So use a simple background, be in your office. And if it's a little messy, whatever, you're a busy professional. You know, you're not a video blogger. You're not a YouTube star. You're conveying actual information. And that is something to stand out. I mean, and some people are like, oh yeah, but I got like, you know, my Beatles poster here and I got like a Giants helmet there. But well, you're sharing who you are. And those are all things that when people come into your office, those are talking points. Maybe the guy is a Giants fan. Maybe the guy hates the Giants. But you know what? There's going to be some conversation starter. You're going to be like, really, the Beatles, that pop, sugar pop group. So it just, you know, people will have conversation starters. And you know, I love the Beatles, just for the record. But you want conversation starters in the background and make it visually appealing. And yeah, and you want to be careful if you're able to do things like you do, Ty, like where you have this bokeh effect where I can't literally read what's on your blackboard there, because there's probably some private stuff back there, but it's visually interesting, right? So yeah, those are the things that stand out. And then from a functional standpoint, text on the screen immediately makes it stand out, because right now, that's not a crowded space. Not everyone is using captions. But let's say in a year from now, 2021, that will be, and then, well, you're gonna have to do something more. And the more novel you can be, the better. But the biggest novelty is that, hey, look, you're suddenly doing video. Get started.
And we've talked a lot about video, and I think we've talked about what to do, what not to do, the formats that work, how to stand out.
Yeah.
But outside of video, and I know that's really your specialty in LinkedIn, what's some other insight with other things that are happening? What are they doing with groups that you've seen? You know, what's going on with Messenger? Give me some insight of the other things that are happening right now with LinkedIn people should know about.
So because how Messenger had, you know, 3-4 years ago, it used to be just the LinkedIn inbox, and LinkedIn will send you an email, you know, Ty has messaged you, and it's like, oh, okay. It won't even tell me what it is. It's going to purposely force me to log into LinkedIn to see what his message is, which is kind of LinkedIn's way of luring me back in. It's so freaking annoying. But now with the LinkedIn apps, like literally on our phone, and with this instant messaging type system that LinkedIn has, a chat system that it has, it is tremendous. The amount of efficiency that you can get with people on a professional context without really texting them on their cell phone, but having the same effect is tremendous. Like by far, I love Messenger for that reason, because I'm able to have very quick conversations with people and really get to know. You know, it's a tremendous platform. I don't use groups nearly as much, maybe as I should, but LinkedIn groups aren't as powerful as Facebook groups. People aren't hanging out in them as much. There's a lot of that drive-by content, you know, vomiting happening where people just share content and leave, and you know, and it just gets annoying. I obviously don't do that. If you're gonna be active in a group, it's like any other organization that you're part of. You don't have to belong to dozens and dozens. Belong to a handful and be active in it. Yeah, post, but more important than posting is commenting on other people's posts. You know, the more you comment on others, the more others will comment on you. The more you share others, the more others will share you. It goes back to the old golden rule, and, you know, do unto others, right? So from that aspect, that's what I would say for groups. But when it comes to LinkedIn Messenger and what we're able to do in terms of connecting with new people, it is tremendous what we're, the types of conversations people can have at scale, to use it in that sense, because you're able to really do it in the nooks and crannies of your day and get outside of the crowded email inbox. Even though more people check more email more times a day, it can get a bit crowded, and the LinkedIn inbox is a nice second alternative.
Taking a ton of notes here, and there's definitely some things that we're going to be doing a lot more on LinkedIn, because you're right, LinkedIn is explosive. And I think one of the biggest pet peeves I have is people that come in, they just dump content and then they take off, just trying to use it to solicit, as you mentioned, you know, not actually using it as a social network to be social. As we wrap up, anything I should have asked that I didn't ask? Any final closing thoughts on what people need to know to be effective on LinkedIn, especially with LinkedIn video?
You know, it is an additional aspect. You know, I think you spoke about it in terms of how do you make it worthwhile. And you know, for me, it's that cascading effect, as I mentioned earlier, that it's not only video. It's unfortunately one more thing, but it's a way for you to have a connection beyond text, beyond images, really. And ultimately, marketing is about that type of relationship. So if your practice, if your business is built on word of mouth referrals and really making an impact on people, where they are your raving fans sharing you with others, well, sound bites with video by far enable people to share you the easiest way, the most effective way. So it's well worth it. And the first things to try and to practice, and it's really, I welcome any of your viewers and listeners to kind of practice on our platform, because that's kind of why we created these video blogging clubs, for people to get to know each other and exchange marketing feedback and ideas while video blogging together, fun and done.
Where can everybody go to learn more about your platform, what you're doing, and about these type of things that we talked about today?
I'll say the easiest is our website. If you go to videosocials.net, plural, videosocials.net, and obviously peruse it. There are tons of videos, as you can imagine, on there. We've got an academy, so resources, things like this, of tidbits and tech tips are there on the academy level. You're able to see what members are posting, so you can get ideas of topics, but also kind of backgrounds and how people explain themselves, and even what that story arc is within their 2-3 minutes. Some people introduce themselves right away. Some people begin with a story and introduce themselves halfway in, that kind of classic TED Talk perspective. So you can see what people are doing. And then, of course, you can see it in real time when you come and participate on one of our Zoom video roundtables. And in the bottom right-hand corner of videosocials.net is a chat box. It's not a chat bot, it's a chat box. And if you type in there, it actually comes to my cell phone as of early 2020. We'll figure it out what happens next year when all of your viewers and listeners start chatting with me and this podcast blows up. I might have to ask someone else to man it. But right now, that's the easiest way for someone to communicate with me, because it goes right to my cell phone, and I'll chat right back if I can, or at least email back. And that's the easiest way to get to hold of me and to kind of see what we're doing and come and try this as a guest. The very first time people come on, they can just simply introduce themselves after members present their video blog, so they can kind of watch the format and the process and kind of be a fly on the wall. Some people are just so scared they don't want to be recorded. That's okay. We say the second time you come on, you have to be recorded, because we want people to kind of, you can't just watch people swim. You got to jump into the pool. And the first time you jump into the pool, it's going to be cold. It's going to be a shock to the system. But you know what? A minute later, you're going to get used to the water. And we're there as a lifeguard. And so I won't stress that analogy too much.
Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you.
So everybody listen, I've learned that when you are at the forefront of especially what social media is doing, you gain a huge advantage in business. The bottom line is social media rewards early adopters. And by this, I mean that, when Facebook or YouTube came out with live video and you're the first one there, they promote that to the top of their streams. You get so much free exposure from that. And we've seen absolute gurus that are influencers on social that blog or video blog or vlog about one event, and that one thing, because they're the first one there, makes them superstars, and they build a whole brand based on that. There's so many things that are happening nowadays from video, and LinkedIn's there. LinkedIn in the last couple of years since Microsoft has taken over has become explosive. The changes that they've made have become explosive. And video is the biggest thing on LinkedIn. And that's why I wanted to bring Vic on today, because everything he's taught you, from how to be effective to what to do, what not to do, to how to stand out, is key to really growing a successful business, especially if you're dealing with other businesses. The best B2B platform to be on is LinkedIn. And Vic just gave you some just limited tips because we have limited time. But if you really want to learn more about what to do, how to be effective on video in general, not just on LinkedIn, but then how to really make it explosive on LinkedIn, then make sure you visit videosocials.net. That's videosocials with an S on the end, .net. And there's so much information from the university to so many other tips that you can get from videosocials.net. It's definitely worth your time to visit and get some good information and develop your own strategy to become effective on video, especially effective vlogging on LinkedIn. So make sure you visit videosocials.net. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.